So a big question that people often have is, how do I get my teen to actually listen to me? So I'm curious, what's the mistake most of us are making?
We're not listening enough.
So we want them to listen to us, but our problem is we're not listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we hear something and we jump into rescue mode. We jump into fixing mode. We jump into advice giving before truly hearing what's going on. I have a series that I've been doing on my YouTube and Instagram about how, as parents, we often respond, and people are like, well, how are you able to get this right? I'm like, well, because it's what I want to say or I have said. So a teen, I hear this a lot, especially in our Latino or Black, Asian communities. Teenagers tells their parent, I'm feeling depressed. Why are you depressed? You have a house, you have money, you have food on the table. Look at all the sacrifices we made for you. You have no reason to be depressed. Why are you depressed? Just sweep the floor and call it a day and be happy, right?
My mom would drink water, take a nap.
My mom would say, oh, life is hard. You just move on. Okay, thanks. That helps. So it's that whole idea of, you didn't hear what I just said. I'm feeling depressed. So then what happens is that parents either tell a kid what to do or what to say or whatever and give really shallow advice. Or they're not really hearing what's driving this behavior. Why is this occurring? And what I tell parents all the time is kids don't need a reason to be depressed. Depression doesn't need a reason. Sadness, there's a reason. So if something sad happens, you should feel sad. Depression goes beyond the reason, which is why it's so difficult to grasp and understand. So instead, take a step back. Don't feel offended, because I think a lot of parents do respond this way because they feel like, well, what did I do wrong that you feel this way? Or it's a reflection on me that you feel this way. It's like, no, make it less about you and refocus on the teenager. So the biggest thing is to just listen, to find out what is truly going on with them. Again, listening to what they have to say, being curious, and then just listening. And even if you don't know what to say or what advice to give, that's not why they're sharing it. Most of the times they just want to be heard. And then you can figure the answer out together. So yeah, I think a lot of teenagers don't listen because they don't feel listened to.
Yeah. So what would this look like in practice? If your teen comes to you, they say, I'm depressed, I'm feeling depressed. Like, for a parent listening right now, whose default would go, okay, let me problem solve for you. What would be like an ideal response, right? I don't want to frame this as like, you better get it right all the time.
Right.
Like,
No.
what would it look like to start to open up that communication for your teen?
So for most parents, it's about taking a breath first to regulate your nervous system. Because if your kid or your teen is saying that they're depressed or they're suicidal or they have an eating disorder or any worst parent nightmare kind of statement, it's going to be triggering for many people, because you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I say? What do I do? So take a breath and try to calm yourself first. You can even say, wow, I'm so glad you came and spoke to me about this. I know it must be very hard for you to be honest about it. So I'm so happy that you spoke to me about it. Okay, let me get my mind right, because I want to make sure I'm hearing you right. So you can just take a pause. You don't have to get it right. And the thing is always to get curious. I think if you remember nothing else, is always get curious. So you're feeling depressed. Yeah. Tell me what's been going on that you've been feeling that way. So just ask questions, and that could be for anything. Even if it's something that they're sharing with you that you don't agree with, an identity that they're going along with, a political candidate they're supporting, a protest that they're getting involved in, grades, or not wanting to be in school anymore, whatever it is, whatever controversial or whatever topic it is. It's just about getting curious. Really seek to understand what are they going through and why are they struggling. And if you can just get outside of yourself and make it less about you and more about them, that will always go well every time, because you are truly stepping into their world and you're empathizing with what they're going through. And you don't have to agree with it, and it doesn't have to even make sense, but you're just getting curious about it. And then from there, you're validating, empathizing. Wow, that must have been really hard for you to share. It sounds like you've been going through that a long time and been keeping it in a long time. It sounds like you've been masking a long time. Whatever it is has been happening. And then validate. A lot of teens go through exactly this. I've learned that 1 in 5 teenagers actually has a mental health diagnosis. I've learned that, a lot of 20% of teenagers actually experience a lot of these struggles, and many times they never express it. So it's actually really common. And I'm really sad that that's something you've been going through. It's something, when I was your age, I went through the same thing and I could never tell my parent this. So I'm really glad that you were able to come to me. So all of these things where you're validating their truth and talking about how hard that must have been, and that thank them. Thank you for coming to me. And then figuring out together collaboratively, well, now that you've told me about this, I know what's happening. What do you want to do? How can I support you? Do you feel like seeing a therapist would be helpful? Do you want to bring in a friend? Do you want to go to a support group? Do you want to get testing to find out what's really happening? Whatever it is, like collaboratively making a decision about what's the next step. And I think that's where you can bring down the temperature and help them feel like what's going on. So that way you don't have to come up with the right answer. You're just listening.
Yeah.
You're just stepping into the messiness with them and helping them know that you're on their side.
1 in 5 is not insignificant. That's a very high amount. When it comes to mental health struggles, there's a lot of parents who will blame themselves. Then there are parents who will say it's just hormones. How much truth is there to that? It's just hormones, or should parents be investigating more?
Well, I mean, it could be anything. I mean, really, right? That's why we want to look at all the different things. So even when people come to my office and say, oh, I think my kid might have anxiety or depression, I'm not sure what's going on. Like, we don't know for sure. They could have anemia. They could have low blood sugar. They could have gastrointestinal issues. They could have allergies. They could have a learning challenge. There could be all kinds of things that are going on. Maybe they have vision issues or hearing issues. I truly believe in the holistic appreciation and addressing all of these things. So it might be hormones. Yeah, you're right. But then let's still collaboratively look at what else could it be. So maybe you start by getting lab work. And there's been times when I've worked with kiddos where they come in and they have what seems to be a mental health issue. They do lab work and they actually have anemia, for example, or they're having seizures. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could be happening. And so it's really about then, maybe it's hormonal. Let's do a hormonal panel. It doesn't mean that it couldn't be other things as well. And so getting that treated. So I think that we don't want to then look at putting more merit into a medical diagnosis just because mental health diagnoses seem like a stigma to people, which is still a stigma. Although it's more accepting and people are talking about it more, there is still a stigma about psychotropic medication for mental health diagnoses and mental health diagnosis as well too. So I think we have to look at the whole picture as well.
I think that's an important message for people to hear, because that default of what we see in the media of like, they're just a moody teen, it's just their hormones. Absolutely. I'm going to link to Dr. Elisa Song's episode for everyone, because she actually goes through her panel of blood work she does for teens as part of screening, because she was explaining to us, like, you'd be surprised. It could be hormonal, but not the ones you're thinking. It could be diabetes. Like, it could be other things that are going on. And so the only way we know is to actually screen. And I think about, again, if we thought about an adult, I would never have an adult come to me and I'd be like, it's just hormones. Like, oh, we're just going to ignore everything else. If you're saying you're depressed, like, oh, it's just depression, so we just need to get a prescription on board. Like, we would always ask why, what's going on, what we might be missing. And surprisingly, we're seeing a lot more teens getting diagnosed with hypothyroidism these days, leading like hormonal issue that can be contributing to depression and anxiety, insomnia, sleeping too much, like so many things that I'm like, you would think is just a normal teenage behavior could actually be attributed to having thyroid disease.
Well, and the moody teen aspect of it is, it still needs to be paid attention to. So if you have a kid who's moody, maybe there is this low-grade depression. Maybe there's some self-esteem issue, or they're being bullied, or they don't feel accepted. I speak to so many teens who will say things like, I'm doing all the things you tell me. I'm getting involved with activities. I'm doing the sports, but every time I'm with a group of other kids, I feel like I'm invisible. I don't feel like I matter. So they're doing all the things, and yet her parents always saying, oh, well, you're just being moody, you're just being too sensitive. Well, but that's still something to pay attention to, because then that can lead to anxiety and social anxiety and isolation and depression. So even if something just feels like a moody teenager, we still need to pay attention to it, because it can fester into other problems.
If you enjoyed this conversation, then I definitely want you to check out this.